Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for a slasher because I've been in this slasher mood recently, I want to say. I recently rewatched one of my favorite movies from when I was a kid. It's a slasher called Dark Ride. Many of you have probably heard of that if you're watching this review. But it just got me in this whole thing. It's like this feeling of the coming fall and how I love slashers during the fall and how much I want to watch more of that. Anyway, the movie that I'm talking about today is called In a Violent Nature. And everybody was talking about this back in June when it came out. It's made by the Shudder Company, who has the streaming service Shudder, and so on and so on. And the director and writer of this film was Chris Nash, who apparently did the monster effects, if I read that correctly on IMDb. I may have misunderstood what I was looking at. For a movie that I watched last year in Tennessee that I wanted to review, and I think by the time I got back, I don't think I was making videos on this channel, I'm not really sure, but it was called Psycho Goreman, and Psycho Goreman kicked ass. It was great. If you love things like Goosebumps, it's kind of like a silly, kind of kid hanging out with a monster type of movie. If you love that kind of thing, I think you'd love Psycho Goreman. Definitely check it out. But In a Violent Nature, well, I went into it knowing it was a slasher and that everybody was saying, including one of my friends, that it had one of the greatest kills in a horror movie ever. And I have to agree to that. I do not agree with everything else I heard. It's got a couple of good things about it, but the more I get into this review, the more I'll have to just tell you straight out, like, I didn't like this movie. I fucking hated it, to be honest with you. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's rough. So let me paint the picture like this. Chris Nash basically is making his spin on Friday the 13th. And ever since this movie came out, I kept hearing more and more people do the same thing they did with Adam Green years ago, and even David Gordon Green too, where they kept saying they wanted this guy who's hot right now to make a Friday film. Now, I think Adam Green would have been great, but now people want this guy. And this movie is everything I worried about with this potential A24 Friday the 13th TV show, movie series, whatever they're planning on doing. It's not in production right now. It's kind of in pre-production again because they had to stop, for anybody not keeping up with that. In a Violent Nature has this Friday the 13th in art house mentality that I'm not sure why people like it. I really don't get it. I see people constantly on Reddit and whatever saying, you know, I'm not a slasher fan, but I loved In a Violent Nature. What the fuck, why? So, basically, like I said, it's a spin on Friday the 13th in a very art house way. Basically, there is a locket necklace hanging from, like, a pipe in a certain area out in the woods. We keep focusing on this particular spot in the woods for, like, the first 5 minutes of the movie, and we hear the nice chirping of birds and the trees and stuff, and eventually we hear the voices of some campers walking through the area who take this locket off of the pipe-looking thing that was sticking out of the ground, and they're talking about how pretty this locket is. I guess the girl there takes it, and they leave. And then all of a sudden, almost immediately, we begin to see the ground move. We see this guy crawl out of the ground. We don't see his face. We basically begin to follow him from behind, like a video game, like a third-person Friday the 13th video game type of thing. And he walks. And he walks, and he walks for a long time. And then he might stop here, and then he might kill somebody. And then we see him walk, and walk, and walk. So we know he's a zombie of some sort. Not like in a VHS 2 zombie bicyclist type of thing, but like, we know he's not a regular old human. And he clearly is modeled, especially later in the film when you see his face, he's clearly modeled after a Jason Voorhees type of slasher villain, if you will, in some way, facet, or form. And I thought he looked awesome without the mask. At one point, he does get a mask after he walks and walks and walks. He gets a mask that's basically the submarine villain from Scooby-Doo. You know, the glowing yellow one with like the, what is that called? Scuba diving? Like the old scuba diving helmets? He has like something that looks like that. And I think that mask looks like shit. I hope if they make a sequel to this, that they don't have that piece of crap on his head, because it sucks. Anyway, the kills in here, particularly the practical effects and the gore, there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of generic stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff too. One involving a what do you even call this thing? It's like one of those things that splits wood. It's a very slow kill, but it's a very cool kill for what it was. There's one involving a girl doing yoga, and that was the one that everybody is talking about all over the internet. Do not just look up the clip. Do not just spoil that for yourself. It is such a great kill. It's so good. I can't remember one of my friends who it was that said that, but damn, it was a good kill. I'm trying to think of what else. As I talked about a moment ago, the killer walks and walks and walks. It's a very slow film. For an hour and a half, it feels like a 2-hour agonizing watch. You could, no joke, have 5 or 6 minutes of just following behind this guy. His name is Johnny, by the way, the one who's the killer, as he wanders around. But it's not really wandering. It's like he supernaturally knows, kind of like Jason, where these people are that he wants to kill, that he just hears or he comes across, and he goes after them. And every once in a while, something will happen that'll seem to spark some kind of memory in his mind of something that happened to him. And that's kind of cool. It's just the movie is fucking boring. It's just a boring movie, and I want more to happen. Too much doesn't happen, you know? I need more story. I understand they wanted to make a slasher from the perspective of the killer. That's respectively what this movie is. I don't mind that. I just don't love how it was done here. I don't. I don't at all. But it did have some good things about it. It was very well shot for what it was. I don't mind art house films. I don't mind slow-paced films. This one was boring. That's the difference. Slow pace can benefit things like the Universal Monsters films and so on, like back in the 50s and the 60s. I can support stuff like that. Things like this, it's, again, to me, the excuse of not having enough talent behind the camera to make this engaging. And I'm not talking about just the director, just the writer, whoever. In this case, it was the same person. But I think it's too often a cover-up for things like that. Despite what the goal was or anything, a lot of that walking should have been cut out. And if you want more of a point of the film being fucking boring, the last, 10 minutes of the movie are a great example of that. It'll kill you, dude. But anyway, at the end of the day, In a Violent Nature has some really cool shit in here. There's some couple of really good kills that I've never seen done the way they were in this movie. And some lame generic ones, like I said. The makeup in here, the practical effects, which I'm pretty sure everything in here were practical effects, they all looked excellent. Every single bit of those practical effects looked wonderful. It's too slow for my taste, but it's well made. I gotta give it that. So give it a chance, I guess, if it sounds like it appeals to you at all. But if you're a general slasher fan like myself and you just like a bunch of people getting attacked by some masked killer, and whether it has gore or not, it could be something like Curtains that doesn't really have that much gore, or Tourist Trap that's more truly frightening and scary with some mild supernatural elements. If it's more of that kind of thing for your taste, this is not going to be really for you. I don't think it will be. But every slasher fan should give it a chance to see what they think. You may love it a lot more than I do. It seems like generally most people seem to love it. I'm not on the ball with it, dude. So anyway, In a Violent Nature, if I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I'd probably give it like a 2 out of 5 stars. I fucking hated it. Thought it was so boring as hell. I do think, however, Chris Nash, the guy who directed and wrote it, could make a damn good slasher. If he didn't go this whole bullshit art house route, I think he could do a great job. Just please, for the love of God, do not put this guy in charge of Friday the 13th. I don't think he's ready just yet. I don't. If you did a trilogy, I would love to have Adam Green do 1 or 2 of the movies, if not all of the movies. If it were my vote, I'd have him doing all of them. Have you seen Hatchet? The Hatchet movies are great. I like that more than I like this, and they're not even like the top tier of the last decade. I would love to have Adam Green do it, maybe Chris Nash once, as long as it wasn't some subverting expectations bullshit. But anyway, In a Violent Nature, I recommend it to the right person. I don't think most people will be the right person. So let me know what you think about it if you saw it down below. What'd you think about that yoga kill, dude? Holy shit, that was memorable. That was one of the best ones I've ever seen in a movie. So anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.